BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got a special guest, Erica Jones, the head softball coach of a burgeoning Jim Ned softball program, is going to join us.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to her. This is a coach who's been around the area for a very long time. It's been a good while at Clyde. It's been several years at Anson before taking over at Jim Ned. And she's done a good job everywhere she's been. So she's been one of the area's top coaches for a long time now. A really fun person to talk to, has a really good personality, very energetic. So I'm excited to get her on here and get a chance to talk to her about this year's team, because I know that she's been doing some pretty special things in Jim Ned, and I think are finally people are starting to notice this team is really playing well to start this season. So I'm eager to get her thoughts.
Well, Erica's wound pretty tight. She's emotional. She's very competitive, which really is not unlike the way I was when I was a lot younger and competing. So I completely respect and sympathize with that viewpoint and that approach. She wants to win, and you can see it.
Yeah. And beyond that, I mean, you can also see just in watching her coach and watching her deal with her players, just how much she cares about her kids and about their development. I mean, she really does put a lot of emphasis into helping her players get better, and they know that she loves them. So she's a fun one to watch. Her teams are always very competitive, and she, like you said, very energetic out there while in the coach's box. So yeah, she's a fun one to watch, and it's gonna be fun to talk to her tonight.
And she wins. Mm-hmm. She wins. Before we get into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and with that, before we bring on Jim Ned softball coach Erica Jones, let's talk a little bit more about some softball around the area. And one thing that we have noticed or been talking about, obviously this Stanford team, the defending 2A state champion Stanford Bulldogs, Lady Bulldogs, have been playing up a considerable amount. Their early season schedule has been littered with larger schools. Mm-hmm. And not only are they beating the vast majority of them, but they're beating them up. This is a good ball club.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. You look, they played Abilene High earlier in the season. Brandon McAuliffe was out at that one. They lose a 1-0 decision in 9 innings that really could have gone either way. I was out a few weeks later at Cooper, a good Cooper team, a good 5A team that they beat 5-2, and they're about to complete the trifecta as far as the Abilene local teams go. They're playing Wiley on Saturday, which will mean they'll play all 3 of Abilene's local high schools. I mean, these are not just 5As and 6As. These are good 5As and 6As. And like you said, they're more than holding their own. It's pretty crazy when you think about a Class 2A program putting together the schedule that they have and performing as well as they have against it. But it's not surprising necessarily when you look at what they did last year and who they've got in the circle. When you're talking about sending Citlali Gutierrez to the mound or the circle, you're talking about a girl who's probably the best pitcher a lot of these teams are going to face all year long. In fact, even Stacey Herring of Cooper said this is one of, if not the best pitcher we're going to face all year. So it's going to make us better. So that's the cool thing about these games is it makes both teams better. And when you're a 2A team that can play those types of games and put that kind of challenge on these bigger schools, it says a lot about what you're putting on the field right now. And it's Coach Cindy Herrera is putting a very strong product. It's been pretty fun to watch.
In baseball or softball, pitching can be the great equalizer. If you have a stud on the mound or in the circle, you can compete at a much higher level if they are capable of dominating at that higher level. And Citlali Gutierrez is she'd be as good as any 6A pitcher in the state of Texas as you're going to see. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are a handful of studs out there that will compare with her. There's D1s at the higher level, 5A, 6A, but I mean, as good as she is, as hard as she's throwing upwards of about 70 miles an hour now, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody better than that.
Yeah. And you mentioned the impact of good pitching in baseball and softball, and there's no question. And in softball, it's even magnified because a girl like Citlali can go every game. So, I mean, in baseball, yes. I remember probably the most comparable situation I can remember in our area was back when Brownwood had Shelby Miller, a Major League Baseball pitcher. throwing for them, where they would flip every week for in the playoffs for a one game. And if you got that one game, it was kind of similar to what you see in softball, where you got your stud on the mound throwing every playoff game, and he takes you pretty darn far. In softball, it's a little different in that you can throw that girl every time, and that's kind of the deal. I mean, Lolley's going to take the circle in every big game they play, and it just gives them a huge advantage, particularly on their 2A peers who. I mean, unfortunately, that's a tough assignment for anybody. You look at what they're doing to these 5As and 6A programs, these good 5A and 6A programs, and then these 2As have to step in there and try to beat her. And it's a challenge, a huge challenge. But I mean, you got to be impressed with what Stanford's done, and it's not just her. Honestly, their lineup and their defense is really solid and does some really nice things to complement her. Look what they're doing right now offensively against some of these 4As, against Vernon, against Snyder. I mean, they're really hitting the ball right now too. So. This is going to be a tough team.
With Applin in the lineup now and Muller from the basketball team. Now that they've got basketball over, their offensive production has definitely stepped up of late. 17-0 over Anson. A few days ago, they beat Vernon 16-2. They beat Snyder 9-0. When you start adding offense to Gutierrez, my gosh, that's a tough combination.
And that's a good point to bring up, is that they started. They put up together the record they did, playing all of their early games without the entire left side of their infield and two of their better hitters in Leilani Applin and Mueller. So two girls that have added a ton to what they do. It's pretty crazy when you think about what they've done. They were shorthanded until that Cooper game. That Cooper game was the first game for Applin and Mueller to play. They win that one 5-2 with 4 first inning runs. And now they seem to be rolling now. I think that first game there was some rust to kind of kick off after coming over from basketball, and right now Stanford's just rolling. And this week they've got a really good 4A Iowa Park team Thursday, and then they got that Wiley game on Saturday. We're going to get to see them, see what they can do against 2 more really good large school opponents. But I talked to Coach Herrera after that Cooper game about this non-district schedule, because I don't think I've ever seen a 2A school schedule, this type of a non-district schedule where you're consistently playing 5As, 6As, and good 4As. But she said it was by design. She was saying that she said if we're going to try to defend our state title, we need to be, have had experience playing the best that we can get. And so far they've done it and performed very well. It's really, really impressive. So hats off, obviously, to Stanford and what they're doing. And it's going to be fun to follow them the rest of the season. They've got a really, really good group.
Okay, before we bring on Coach Jones, we want to remind you that we're going to be releasing the All Big Country Preps girls and boys basketball teams March 25th, March 26th, and March 27th. That is the girls being released the 25th. The boys are coming out the 26th. Our All Big Country Preps Gym Rat team will be released on the 27th. And we have a new addition. We have the Rising Stars team that Dan can tell you about, which will be also released with each of these ball clubs.
Yeah, obviously the Rising Stars team was something we started with football. It's all underclassmen, so it's your top freshmen and sophomores. It's something that we enjoyed doing with the football team. I thought it was a cool addition to that, and I think it's something we're going to stick with throughout the year. So I'm excited to put out those All Big Country Preps teams and get to honor all of the kids who made this a very memorable basketball season on both the boys and girls side. So be on the lookout for that. It will be coming at the end of this month, or toward the end of the month, as Evan said. And we're excited to put that out. And there's going to be a lot of really good players on there. So make sure you check that out when it comes out.
And with that, it's time to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, KATX 97.7 FM out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And with that, Mr. Youngblood, it is time to bring on Erica Jones, one of the it's always fun for me to watch Erica run her ball club because she's just a ball of energy. She's emotional, and she tries to bring that energy to her ball club, and she can't help but uplift the players around her. We've seen it at Clyde, we've seen it at Anson, and now we're seeing it at Jim Ned.
Yeah, I mean, and it's neat that we've had her in the big country as long as we have. She's been kind of a big country staple on the softball scene, and all of her programs have done well. We talked about that before, but everywhere she goes, they experience success. And I think a part of it is, or a lot of that is what you just talked about, the enthusiasm she brings to the field, the passion that she has for this game. It just kind of bleeds through everywhere she goes. And I think it's in that competitive drive that she has. I mean, her team does take on her personality, and we're starting to see that in Gym Ned, which is really cool. And that's something I think will be fun to talk to her about tonight, is that we are starting to see the Gym Ned program take on some aspects of her personality. And I think that's kind of the start of building that culture you want to build to build a program and push it forward. So it'll be fun to get her on, and it looks like she's about ready. So let's go ahead and talk to Coach Jones.
And joining us now via Zoom, Jim Ned head softball coach Erica Jones. Erica, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are off to another solid start, second year in a row. Tell us what your thoughts are so far on the season. Off to 11-5 start, 3-1 in district. Things are going well.
Right, they are. We have some solid seniors that are showing some good leadership, but we're quite young. And I think we have our sights on at least a third round appearance. That's our unspoken goal this year, of a realistic goal for our season.
And just looking at some of the scores throughout the season, y'all are putting up a lot of runs again this year. Just what have been some keys to that offensive success? You've got a lot of girls in this lineup that have really put up some nice numbers the last couple of years.
I think that's a kind of our MO. We sometimes we struggle defensively, so we know we've got to put up numbers. We spend a lot of time offensively. We've got some girls that have a lot of power, but we also have some kids throughout the lineup that can execute like manufactured runs, where we can lay down some short game and some just different options throughout our lineup.
And you kind of touched on that with being an MO. That's kind of been a staple of your teams throughout the years, whether at Clyde, Anson, now at Jim Ned. Your teams have always put up a lot of runs. Just to what do you attribute that? I mean, is that obviously something you emphasize?
Yeah, we take a lot of reps. We do a lot of we try to do a lot of live pitch. We do a lot of form work. I've been trying to do a little bit more individually because, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that believe that there's certain fundamentals that you follow on swings, but sometimes I think that depending on a girl's build, you can tweak it a little bit. So we've been spending a lot of time on working a little bit individually on specific tweaks to help girls be a little bit more successful at the plate.
Coach, tell us about the process of developing pitching. That's got to be, I would think that's one of your biggest challenges, is just because it's a long process, doing it right. And tell us about the challenge of developing pitching long range into the future.
Well, I'm a firm believer in trying to find consistency with a pitching coach. A lot of times kids flip-flop to different coaches, and a lot of times you can find different philosophies and styles. I know a lot of girls in this area are getting lessons from local college girls and DBAT and things like that. And I just think that consistency, instead of jumping from coach to coach to coach, is super important for kids to understand. And a lot of times kids try to pick up too many pitches too early. And I think that's where a lot of kids struggle with maybe developing a little bit more speed, to where a lot of times, like right now, you'll see kids that are topping out at like 56, 57, but they've got good break. I think that they might have developed their their break a little bit too early instead of getting a little bit more strength and form to be able to hit that speed a little bit better.
And just watching what you've done at Gym Ned so far, there's obviously been improvement that we've seen from the outside. But with you obviously having a closer look at this team, being with them every day, what are some maybe the most noticeable areas of improvement that you've seen since arriving there?
Well, softball IQ has gone up a lot. We've talked a lot about situations. There were a lot of things like girls didn't understand how to even defensively approach and break down to a ball. Things as simple as knowing what foot to step with to the ball on a force play. So we started fairly basic whenever I first got there, kind of ground zero. And then we just developed, because I think even base running, there's a lot of people say, oh, softball is a simple sport, which it is. You throw the ball, you catch the ball, you hit the ball. But there's so much strategy. That's what I guess I'm just the biggest baseball and softball fan, because there's so much strategy and things that you can do to give your teams an edge.
Coach, I've been around softball for quite a while.
You have. I've seen pictures.
Well, I used to play. Yeah.
I know.
Now, that's a long time ago. I've been covering it for quite a while as well. And I do not recall a softball coach, who wears her emotions on her sleeve to a greater extent than you do. And I think it's almost like it's something that it's a trademark now with you. Did you tell us about how that went? You're an emotional person, unabashedly emotional. Did you ever go through a phase where you were like, you know what? I'm not going to be emotional during these games. I'm going to be like Mr. Spock or something. And then you decided, you know what? This is not me. I'm just going to let it go. Or how did it go?
I pray about it a lot on trying to stay in check. I do. What's funny is today's a perfect example. I had a kid that did something and I didn't yell. I just looked at her and that freaked them out. They were like, man, she didn't yell. And they said that scared them more. And I'm like, I can't win for losing, but I was raised by a Marine drill sergeant.
Really?
That probably says a lot about my personality and why I'm so intense. But I just, man, I live it. Like I think sometimes I feel like I might be a little bit too invested, but man, I love these kids hard and they know it. So I feel like that's where it helps a little bit. Like I yell at them, but they know I love them.
Well, let me interject here. I've never judged the energy that you bring to a game as a negative energy. I always thought that you were very, you over at the third base box, you are very uplifting, you know what I mean? And they definitely hear you, but I often see you smiling and very energetic and that sort of thing, but emotional. But I've never once judged you as someone who brings a negative energy to the game.
Some officials might argue with you. No, I think that sometimes I've tried the other approach to where you try to have them carry more of the energy and stuff, but for some reason the teams that I've had, whenever I'm that over the top, they go a little bit harder. So it just seems like they adapt a little bit more to my personality the longer I'm in a place.
Well, it would seem to work at Clyde a great deal. That was you had a long stint there.
I was 9 years.
And I thought they kind of fed off of your energy.
Yes.
And you had a very good, successful run there
Right.
for quite a while. And I thought it was positive. No.
I think sometimes the confidence of knowing that your parents of your players are just like, they're backing you. They understand, because I'm sure an outsider looking in, I'm intense. And some people probably think that I'm too hard on kids or something like that. But man, these parents know that I celebrate with them just as hard as whenever I correct or things like that.
And Coach, you're blessed to be at a school that's really, has athletic success across the board. Every sport has very high expectations, generally meets them. And this has kind of been a golden era for GymNet athletics. Just how much has maybe the success in the other sports, particularly other girls sports, maybe fed over and influenced softball, do you think?
There's that culture. There's a certain culture to it. We do, like, this time of year is a good example where every girl that's in the athletic program is in the weight room together. We do strength conditioning and agility all together. And so you have all those different personalities in the weight room, and it kind of helps bring energy from our basketball team. Their success pulls in, but from our volleyball team, it just camaraderie of it all kind of comes together this time of year when they're all together.
Coach, for a good while now, GymNed had really enjoyed success in a lot of areas. Obviously, football of late, the last 5 or 6 years, been on the upswing. We've seen GymNed very successful in cross country, girls basketball, obviously, boys basketball, tennis, golf. We have seen it across the entire range of sports, except for in one area. We have not seen GymNed really, hit that peak in softball. That was one of the, if they had a struggling program throughout the years, it may have been softball. Were you eyeballing that spot, thinking, you know what, that place has got a world of potential? That's a great job to have. Were you eyeballing that place?
Yes. Yes. Well, it's one of those things where that's kind of what's funny. When I was in Anson, GymNed is who beat us out for that fourth place play-in game my last year in Anson. And you could just see the raw athleticism of kids and their desire to compete. And so, yes, 100%. And I've known Matt Fanning for quite a while, and he and I had discussions, and that was his goal, was to really fix the perspective of that it was a program that wasn't as successful. That was the goal, was to come in and get somebody to drive it hard, to get these kids to understand they, we're going to work hard and we're going to win.
Okay. And you mentioned some of the goals that this team has, talking about, hoping to make a third round to the playoffs. Looking at the district race, obviously very competitive so far, where you got the three-way tie at the top with you guys, Clyde and Ballinger. Just what are your thoughts on just with Wall and Clyde? What are some of your thoughts on this district and just kind of some of the challenges that it poses, and then kind of, again, just kind of reiterate some of those goals?
Well, we got to play Kahoma in pre-district, and it's one of those blessings. It's a blessing and a curse having a district that's tight in that race, because I was talking with him. I mean, he's on an island in district to where he's just killing everybody. He's ruling everybody. And then you get to playoffs and you're like, oh crap, we've got to go compete. People are going to hit the ball. That's the good thing about this district is we're gonna play tight games. We're gonna play close games to where we have to deliver and be put in pressure situations. So I'd rather be in a district to where you've got to battle a little bit than a district that's just you're blowing everybody away.
Coach, having seen GymNed before your arrival and having seen your ball club last season, one thing that I quickly noticed was that the team looked like it was having fun while it was playing. It did not look uptight. It looked like it was having fun. Is that something you tried to interject or just tried to change?
Man, I try my best. Like you said, I'm an intense person, but at the same time, I feel like in practice, Like, I make practice hard and intense to where when it comes game time, I feel like my players feel that they have been put in a situation to be successful. And so anytime that a team can come in knowing that they have prepared and that they have a fighting chance to go win the game, they're always going to be a little bit more successful.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on you guys as always.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And that was Gym Ned softball coach Erica Jones. She is what she is. She just says, "Here I am. Deal with it."
Yeah, I mean, what you see is what you get with her, and
exactly.
And I think that conversation was a lot of fun. I think she's someone who does bring a really neat perspective. I mean, this is a woman that clearly loves softball. She loves what she does. And it shows in really every aspect of the way she coaches. And I thought it showed through the conversation we just had. So that was a lot of fun to get to talk to her about this year's team, about some of the things she's doing with this group, some of the goals it has, and really some of her philosophies, because you've kind of seen a lot of the strengths of her teams have kind of carried from place to place to place. And Gym Ned's starting to look a lot like some of those Clyde and Anson teams have had a lot of success. So I think you're starting to see kind of the groundwork laid for the type of program that she runs there at Gym Ned, and they're in for a lot of fun because there's going to be a lot of success to follow.
Prior to her arrival, you didn't hear of Gym Ned softball, period. Really, It was almost non-existent. It was a consistently non-successful program. Now we're hearing about Gym Ned all the time. They're in contention again for a playoff spot, maybe a district championship. They're right up there with Clyde. So it's going to be, I mean, she's definitely infused some life into that program, and she's only in her second year. Yeah,
no question. It's been fun to watch. This is a team that really hits the heck out of the ball, and that's kind of another staple of what she did, what she's done really at stop to stop, and that's already begun there. I mean, you're going to see them improve some in the pitching and improve some in defense, and that's going to become a really good, really tough softball team, and you can tell they're kind of already on that path. So it was fun to get to talk to her about some of those things.
And with that, it's about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. You can purchase a digital download for $7, and we also have some keepsakes and prints available. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we enjoy doing and something we're very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.